Hello everybody, this is Lehman Crafton, aka Zorvalachan, Less Than Guru once again. And today we are going to talk about Tharkold. And first, as you probably see, I have changed things up even differently. I'll be changing things until I find something I either like or I just go back to having my living room show up in the videos, but this is the way we'll be doing it today. So we are continuing our discussion of the original Torg system, and the reality that we will be focusing on today is Tharkold. Now, Tharkold is a realm that I would love to be able to love in original Torg. And I have always felt this way until Torg Eternity came out. And once the Torg Eternity came out, then I was actually able to love the realm because of a couple of the changes that they made. But thematically, Tharkold is a realm of techno horror. So it's not the gothic horror of Ororsh. It is more of, if you want to think of genres, it's more of Terminator after Judgment Day meets Hellraiser, and they had a baby. That baby would be Tharkold. So, to explain and get the understanding of what Tharkold is, I need to I'll start from the beginning of the reality, the setting, and explain it, and hopefully you'll be able to understand what's going on. So the Tharkold reality, the cosm, the home source of the reality, is one of those close to Earths out there. It's like Terra, which is a planet that looks really similar to Earth, or Gaia from Ororsh is similar. Even Magna Horita from Cyberpapacy, even though it's a disk flat Earth, it's still Earth. Roughly continents and stuff are in the same shape, even though it's a disk. But Tharkold is one of those close to Earths that we have. And the history of it is pretty much, or I guess the ancient history of it is very close to our own. And where it diverges is sometime during the Trojan War. So we are looking over 3,000 years ago. We're looking about 1,200 to 1,300 BCE for the Trojan War. And what happens is once the Greeks are not at home, so they're off fighting the Trojans in Asia Minor. And Mycenae, which is the biggest, most powerful at this time Greek city-state, ruled by King Agamemnon when he's away, is attacked by these supernatural magical beings that kind of look like demons. So they get this name demons, and they are actually Tharkoldu. And if you look at this, if you look at the picture next to me here, the Tharkold source book, there's a woman, and then below her there's some guy type weird looking thing, but to her left is, or to our left, to her right, I guess it would be, is a Tharkoldu, one of these demons. They're not demons in the sense that they come from hell, but they do look like demons ish. They have wings, so they're known as demons. So whenever talking about Tharkold, if I talk about demons or Tharkoldu, it's interchangeable. And Tharkoldu is their name. Tharkoldu meaning hunters of the sky, and Tharkold meaning sky of the hunters, or it might be air. Hunters of the air, air of the hunters, but you get the idea. So adding that U, that oo at the end kind of reverses the meaning. But they start a war, and this war lasts over 3,000 years. So everything on both of these cultures is kind of shaped by this war that's been going on for 3 millennia, where they even kind of their their year is based off of that day that that first fight started. So during this whole time, the humans and the Tharkoldu, they kind of who's winning, who's winning, who's winning. They keep changing things. The Tharkoldu are really big in magic, and as the reality shifts over time, when magic starts increasing, the Tharkoldu start winning. And when the magic starts lowering or tech starts going high, then the humans start winning, because the humans are really big into tech. So even though it started off kind of what we would consider the Bronze Age, the humans are able to quickly develop things because of this war and the necessity of, you know, getting tech as high as they can to repel these demons. And there's a thing where the demons, the Tharkoldu, are much less. So the humans have a population advantage, but the Tharkoldus are just physically more powerful. So, you know, a few humans, there needs to be a few humans to be able to take out a Tharkoldu. So there's this big ongoing war, and there gets to a point where the tech's so high that like nuclear weapons are created, and magic is very high, and this magic and weapons war in this huge war devastating lots of regions does what's known as the spasm, and it throws things out of whack. It makes certain parts of this planet, similar to Earth, uninhabitable by either of the humans or the Tharkoldu. And the magic axiom starts to crash. It comes down. And there's a minimum level of magic that the supernatural creatures need. It's similar to in Torg Eternity, elves, and I believe Tharkoldu in Torg Eternity, yes, also have a minimum that they need. So they're on the verge of not being able to survive based off of the axiom levels, and it's just falling and not going up. So one of the Tharkoldu's biggest and brightest people, who's very good in technology, very good in magic, kind of combines the two and sends a space probe out to find help or find a place to go to. And apparently this probe crosses a chasm, and it comes across the Gaunt Man's attention. And normally this is not a good thing. Anytime, what do I want to say? Let me go back a few seconds. Basically, the last thing anybody in the Cosmverse wants to do is draw attention to themselves to the Gaunt Man. Drawing the Gaunt Man's attention to you is basically you're going to be dead, or you're going to be a miserable existence for however long that happens. And the Gaunt Man pretty much could have just been like, wow, I was just distracted by what I was doing. I'm going to completely invade and destroy this cosm. But he was a little curious that something had, without a darkness device, had been able to come to him. So he looked into this cosm, and he kind of dismissed the race as these are just humans. But the Tharkoldu kind of intrigued him a little. So he basically appeared before Kernod, and there were some things so that, you know, the Gaunt Man is not just a human, you know, it's not just, and the humans, I'll call them race also. After a time, the humans on Tharkold just started being known as the race by both sides. So he could see that he wasn't just a race, and he could see that he wasn't You know, there is something more about him, very powerful, kind of exudes off of him. So Crenad, or the Gaunt Man, offered Crenad basically saying, become my servant, and I will give you the ability to win this war of yours. And Crenad agreed. And from what I recently read and remember, he stayed a servant of the Gaunt Man for like a little, somewhere around a century. So during this time, he's very much like Uthorian was before him, where he becomes a lieutenant of the Gaunt Man. He goes and he helps out the Gaunt Man on conquests. And then the Gaunt Man, as a gift, gives him a darkness device, which is Malgist. And that is the staff-looking thing that this woman is holding. So that's going to come into play soon. So Crenad goes back to Tharkold, and the race are about winning, but now he has a darkness device, and he is able to use the power of the darkness device to defeat the race. And he makes the race, humans, almost all of them become slaves, and there's a few little sections of the planet known as the Free Nations, and they're fighting back. And so Crenad becomes High Lord. But if you remember my Orosh video that I did only a couple videos ago, the Gaunt Man had been looking for 2,000 years. Here comes Mars. For 2,000 years, he had been trying to devise a way to take over Earth, and one of his things was to get people in there that he could use. And it wasn't necessarily the biggest or the brightest, so he had Uthorian, which I said I was very disappointed because he always came across as being a buffoon after his introduction. And then there was Crenad, the Tharkoldu High Lord. So Crenad was supposed to invade Russia. That's the area that he was given. And with the Nippon Tech Kanawa underhanded maneuver of trying to get some of these cosms, to these realities, not to be able to land on Earth, it failed against the false papacy, but they and the Russians succeeded in basically destroying the stela right when, or very close to when, the Maelstrom Bridge would come down. So they didn't have that anchor point of stela ready to act as a buffer against the powerful possibility energy of Earth. It blew back, destroyed the bridge. Right before this, Crenad had tried to take over another world, and like I explained, that High Lords will go to cosms, and basically had a bumble of that one. That world was a world that had a lot of high tech in it, and they just had a lot of problems. So they were kind of in a weakened state, and the Tharkold, because of meeting that cosm, plus because of being able to, or for the war and the tech, the race actually making the tech go high, but the Tharkoldu were using it too. They had a tech of 26, which is the same as what the Cyberpapacy ended up with. And that world before Earth that they tried to take over, and basically they did succeed, but it was kind of a Pyrrhic victory in that aspect. They had been there a long time, and they had some adaptations, and that other cosm, that other world that they took over, Kandara, and that world, a Storm Knight from that world is the one who injected the Pope, the Cyber Pope, with those visions that turned the false papacy into the Cyber Papacy. So the Cyber Papacy tech was kind of based off of that realm. So with the war between Tharkold and this Kandara, they were able to they had like adapters. They both had Tech 26, so they could have adapters that would make things work, cyberware work in the other realm and vice versa. So Cyberpope, his Tech 26 is new, considered new, whereas Tharkold's has been Tech 26 for a long time. And I'm fine with that in concept, okay? Later on, I'll explain why I would love to love Tharkold, but I can't. I want to love it. I love the idea of Terminator, Hellraiser mashup, all the things that go with the cyberware that is in Tharkold, the occult tech. They had a thing called occult tech, which during that time when magic was going down, they used technology and the occult to kind of the Gauntman. When he came in, he kind of gave him a lifeline. He wanted to take Crenad and use him, but he knew that the race would probably win against the Tharkold dude, so he gave them a little lifeline. And they mixed occult with technology, and like I said, the Tharkold dude, the demons, were first, they were very magical, and they basically used tech of the race. Well, this was a new type of tech, an occult tech, and it basically allowed them to survive in these low magic axiom times. So they even went around to other magical creatures like dragons and or dragon-like beings and other beings, and basically were like, you can see that the magic is lowering, you're not going to survive, we will give you the ability to survive with this occult tech, you just become our servants, our slaves, etc., etc. So that's where you get things like the Saigons of Tharkold, which I love, which are like a dragon-like or dragon race that has cybernetic occult tech and stuff like that. But when Crenad was going to invade Earth, like I said, the Stele were ripped out. It was a big blowback happened, and he was knocked out of the Possibility Wars for 2 years. And during that time, he, like I said, he had a really bad kind of a disaster Pyrrhic victory against Akazam right before Core Earth, and then he completely bungled the Core Earth bungled the Core Earth invasion. I mean, sure, Nippon Tech was the one that went in and helped the USSR rip those Stele out. And this Torg was being written right at the time, right before the USSR fell apart. So in early Torg, they mention the USSR, and then later they start mentioning either just Russia or the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, that was kind of a loose form thing before they kind of went, different countries kind of went their own separate ways, and there's still kind of a weird thing where they're easier to travel between certain former USSR countries, but that's not a Torg topic. So during that time, this human race member, this slave race known as Jezreel, she gets into a fight with her master, Crenad, and Crenad goes to get those possibilities and get that power from his darkness device, and instead the darkness device gives those powers to Jezreel, because she has ambition and it's tired of failing or almost failing, so she kills Crenad and she becomes the High Lord. And Tharkold has a big a dominance and submission type world law that it's what I call a dominance chain. There's a ladder or a chain of command, and once she defeats him, she gets everything below him. A lot of the demons don't like it. They call humans like hairless monkeys. So this monkey has this hairless monkey has has power over them, but she has the darkness device, and by their world views and their own culture, she should get this. It's just a race taking, defeating the High Lord is a crazy concept. So she finds out that Nippon Tech Kanawa is the one who got to help the Russians get those stele out. And Nippon Tech had a miracle of Sacramento where they swap out one of the steles of the living land with their own, and they make a zone that all of a sudden tech works, and they're able to say, "Oh, look, we, well, yeah, dinosaurs are here and stuff, but we are, we made Core Earth be able to come back because Core Earth and Nippon Tech axioms are so close, so a lot of people believe them." But they found out that that's where Kanawa was trying to head to, so they landed a little bit around Los Angeles, and their stele, instead of going out the maximum that it could go out, they kind of brought it in a little bit, so it's a smaller triangle. And to prevent that from being ripped up, they brought it in, but by bringing it in, they're able to do some other stuff with it to kind of make it so that they would like dimensionally move around, so it would be extremely hard to rip out. It's a neat concept that they did not go further. They ended up planning a stele or two near Berlin, and Berlin became this weird mixed zone of Nile Empire and Tharkold, which is kind of interesting to think about, but Tharkold as a realm never really expanded beyond that first little triangle area. So she's the High Lord. She comes down. Like I said, it's this Hellraiser, Terminator mashup, techno horror. Since the Tharkold demons, as the race called them, with this occult tech and cyberware on it, they became known as techno demons, and the realm is known to be techno horror. So where the Gaunt Man Aurora is gothic horror, Tharkold is techno horror, and this is more of the in-your-face horror, where Aurora has the insidious type slow horror, or the you'll get killed if you go in without investigation. If you just go in trying to fisticuffs, then you're going to die. Whereas Tharkold is the in-your-face horror. You might have to take that stand right away, that jump scare type thing, or the body horror, splatterpunk, that type of thing is what Tharkold is. So there's lots of chains and hooks and magic that has that type of thing. There's these they have like video game consoles that when you hook yourself up to, they might kill you as well as let you play, and tons of weird stuff like that. So that's kind of the setting of Tharkold. So if we look at the axiom levels, and this is the reason why because I really like that aspect of techno horror, and it's why I want to be able to love original Tharkold. But the reason I can't love original Tharkold is the choices that they made, and this is a mechanic aspect, the choices that they made for the axioms, what the axioms would be. So as I mentioned, tech is 26, so it's the same as Cyberpapacy but better, and I could forgive that if that was kind of the only thing going on, because you get a list of cyberware in Cyberpapacy and you get a list of cyberware in Tharkold, and the cyberware of Tharkold is always better, hands down. If it's a bonus to strength, it's going to be better. If it's a bonus to dex, it's going to be better. If it's this, it's better. If it's that, or better. And both of the realms, cybernetics could give you cyberpsychosis, which could be triggered on a setback. The Cyberpapacy ones were a lot worse. There was two different charts, so instead of just having one condensed chart, it was two different charts that you went off of. So everything about the cyberware was better for Tharkold and worse for Cyberpapacy. And personally, I could accept that with them having Tharkold having Tech 26 for a very, very long time, and Cyberpapacy it just being new. But here's what else they had. They had Social of 20. 20, if you remember, is the exact same as Nile Empire, and it's only one under Core Earth and the home source of Nile, Terra, which once Mobius left, Terra had went up Or maybe, I don't really know. Maybe when I don't recall if it was ever mentioned, or maybe when Mobius left, he made his personal axioms go down. But whatever, it's equal to Nile Empire, and equal to, it's 20. Okay, so it's just under Terra, just under core Earth. It's higher than Orosh. It's higher than the 18 of Cyberpapacy. So you have a Tech 26, but it's higher, and it's definitely 2 points higher than Cyberpapacy's social. Then you have magic, and the magic of Cyberpapacy is 10, and Tharkold magic, and I will look it up real fast, is 12. Now, this is another one that I could accept, because a 12 is kind of above whatever that minimum is that was needed for supernatural creatures. So the Tharkold putting Kernod originally putting energy into magic, making it a 12, that is acceptable to me. What's not is they have a spirit of 17. They base it off of these two wars. You have the race are so spiritual, even though there's no gods, no deities, because of their philosophy towards each other. Doesn't make sense. 17. And also that the philosophy of how the Tharkold do work within themselves is a 17. The Cyberpapacy, which is an entire cosm built upon a theocracy, on, we can do miracles, we can save you type thing, is a 14. So Tharkold was absolutely everything the Cyberpapacy could be and better. Even on the one thing that they were the same, 26 tech. So they were better magic, much better spirit, better social, and even equivalent 26, they were better. Why would you, unless you're, and yes, I understand, fluff and character concept be from the Cyberpapacy. I could understand that completely, but mechanically, what would ever benefit you as a player to go Cyberpapacy? None. They had Tharkold, the chips. You could swap the chips out, because, like I said, the Cyberpapacy chips were based off of that invaded cosm, and they had connectors that could do that. The Cyberpapacy chips gave you a bonus of 1, 2, 3 points to a skill. The Tharkold chips were more interesting. They could give you up to 5 points, but where the Cyberpapacy added 1, 2, or 3, the 5 just completely replaced what you had. So even if you had, say, a 4, if you put this 5 on, boom, you had a 5. You didn't have a 9. But if you had a 6 and you put this in, boom, you had a 5. So it overrode whatever you had. So there was some variance, but they had, in Tharkold, they had spell chips. So instead of having spell books, you could just slot in spell chips and cast as if it was casting from a book, a spell book, a grimoire. They had better decking, and this one I completely disagree with. They had better cyber decks and better decking stuff in Tharkold. Now, the Cyberpapacy, as I showed you in my book, they even had a book about the GodNet and net running and how that worked. And their whole thing was kind of like our internet, where everything's connected to the GodNet. Everything is connected. Tharkold has something that a lot of people get wrong. They had what they called the grid, but it wasn't meaning there was only one of them. They just call it the grid, but there is lots of grids out there. Tharkold did not want all to be able to get attacked from long distances within their network type thing. So they're isolated networks. So you might have a region under one of these Tharkoldu that took positions of like dukes and stuff. So you might have a duke that only his fortress had a closed grid. So you had to physically go there first to be able to deck in and use your cyber deck. And then maybe the city outside of that, maybe it had a separate one, or maybe other places, but there were lots of separate grids. It wasn't just the GodNet, and for me, that's like, you have this huge big part of the Cyberpapacy, which is net running, and they had all these rules on how to do it. And in Tharkold, they had reduced it, which is fine, which I actually kind of agree with. They kind of reduced it to a DSR, because you don't need to really go really far to get, far physical locations, because everything's right there. So it's kind of okay, we physically got to the place, now we just need to extract this information or do whatever we need to do in the grid. But their cyber decks were better. Everything about Tharkold was better than the Cyberpapacy. And it was an OP realm. If you wanted cybernetics, here's my two choices. Well, yeah, I'm going for this one. I want to be a cyber mage. Yeah, I'm going for this one. I want to be a priest. What religion is it? Oh, we don't have a religion. We just have this weird, vague philosophy. But we have a 17, which is the same as all the high realms, besides Living Land, which is the highest. But the second highest is all 17s. It's Nile Empire. It is Aurorish. It's Tharkold. It's Isle is one less, but Land Below is a 17. So you have all these, high spirit ones, and Tharkold's just one of them. And that's just one of the things that kind of made it so that I wanted to love Tharkold, but I couldn't, because everything was stacked against the Cyberpapacy. It was like somebody took the Cyberpapacy and was like, well, I like all that stuff, but let's add a bunch of power creep into it. And I know power creep is sometimes really hard to deal with. When I was writing my first Infiniverse product for Torg Eternity, I really had to look at every new perk or spell or ability that I was putting into it and balancing out against anything that was out there, so it wouldn't be obvious of, oh, let me choose the Paraverse one because it's so much better. So I completely understand how hard it was, and actually doing that made me really respect what the Torg Eternity designers had done, because they were trying to keep stuff. And even now, like I've said in previous, and as for full transparency, I am a freelance author for Ulysses Spiel for some Torg products. I have done the Tharkold wave, so we're dealing with Tharkold. That's the very first product I wrote was an act in Tharkold. It wasn't with the Tharkold wave, but it was taking place in Tharkold, because I understood the concept and I understood what Ulysses Spiel had gone with it, and I understand the region, because it actually in Torg Eternity it made it to Russia, so I understand that part of the world. And when I do a review of Torg Eternity, I'll do that, but we're get back to original Torg. So I just had a really big problem with how it was better than everything. And but it's a techno horror realm. It's splatterpunk in your face. There's body horror, body mutilations, things like that. So definitely this is a realm that when you have your session 0, you want to make sure how your player's comfort level is, how everybody at your table is comfortable with these type of themes. Like I said, the race, the humans are pretty much enslaved. There's a lot of other races that over time have been enslaved by the Tharkoldu and things like that. And Mars just keeps, I try to feed him before this video to get him to not bother me as much, but he don't care. He's just gonna do his little thing no matter what. So as a wrap up, world laws, sorry. We went through axioms, world laws. There's the law of dominance, which is basically sometimes you get into a dominance fight with somebody else, and it's kind of like based off of intimidation, and if you can get that other person to bow down, they become a submissive, And there's certain spells and miracles and stuff that instead of like a trope in RPGs of it affects all your friends or allies, or it affects all your enemies, it was like it affects anybody not that it's not in your dominance chain. So if you cast it and your Storm Knights had not had a pecking order established, then the other Storm Knights could be affected. So then Storm Knights had to decide, are we going to submit to a Tharkold character, because it did allow a couple of Tharkold templates and explain how to do those, or even say a cyber mage, or some a race person or a transformed normal human from LA who is now part of the Tharkold reality. So you had to determine, and it was kind of like what I've mentioned with Faith in a previous video. You had Faith's fighting, you would get the, okay, everybody, let's make sure that we're on the same faith. So with a Tharkold, you might go, okay, everybody, before this becomes an issue, let's determine who's the leader, who's, you know, the dominant personality, and where's the pecking order after that. Yeah, I understand that that's not a lot of players' cup of tea, but that's one of the things that's in Tharkold. Then we have just to make sure that I have the things right, because like I said, I have worked a lot with Tharkold and Torg Eternity, so I want to make sure that I have the world laws right. So then there's the law of ferocity, which kind of limits the social axiom. Like I said, it's 20, but that 20 did have a caveat. It could only be with things that had to deal with like warfare and stuff. It was an 11 otherwise. So if you're trying to talk about democracy or things like that, well, you're stuck at an 11. If you're trying to talk about and coordinate how to invade in a war, then it's 20. So I guess the 18 of the Cyberpapacy isn't that bad, but it was more the spirit of 17 and just everything else being better that irked me, made it so that I couldn't love Tharkold as much as I wanted to. And then the law of pain, which basically, if you inflict some pain on somebody, you get better rolls in the future. So those three laws, law of domination, the law of pain, the law of ferocity, those have transferred over in various ways to Torg Eternity. But the other thing, and we'll see how well this appears on the screen, Tharkold was one of the 3 realms that had a creatures book, the Creatures of Tharkold. So it went through the same thing, the black and white picture, a description, stats, where it was on the home cosm, and where it was in the realm on Earth, and then a size comparison chart. On here it's interesting because they have it I almost had it right there at the bottom, whatever. I might just go back to the other videos because it doesn't make these things. The size comparison is against the Tharkold, not against a human. So that's interesting. And that's a good book. When Brian, John, and I were doing Blood on the Blasted Lands, and even when I was doing my part of Relics of Power, sometimes we take some creatures from this book and convert them over. And it's not like we just did everything, but sometimes it's like you want to have that link to Torg. So that was fun. But they had that book for the Game Masters, which was good. They had the main book. Like I said, conceptually, I like Tharkold. It was interesting to find out what happened to this realm that had tried to invade the USSR. But then once it came to Earth, it really didn't do much. But it was so much better than the Cyberpapacy when you looked at all the axioms and you looked at even the world laws. You could come in and dominate people or tell them, hey, I need to dominate you because if not, you're going to be affected by my spells. And I got better spells than Cyberpapal spells. I got better spiritual miracles than Cyberpapal miracles. Just kind of blows my mind. What? So we'll go ahead and I'll end it there. I have 2 more realities that I want to do. Next, we will be talking about, which one do I want to do? Let's do all the different realities and hit Core Earth last. So tomorrow, hopefully, I've been banging these out about once a day. So we will talk about Ravagons tomorrow, Servants of the Gaunt Man. So that hopefully will be interesting. So if you like the video, hit the like. If you dislike the video, hit the dislike. If you want to comment about how I have this thing set up, please let me know. I do, even though there is kind of weird artifacts and stuff, I think the black background is better than the white one. It's not quite as bad. And when I wear my dark black, or my black shirt, it still kind of shows up. So let me know in the comments what you think. I got a few more subscribers, so thank you for my new subscribers. I appreciate that. I appreciate the people that have been watching these as the days go on. And once again, I am Lehman Crafton, aka Zorvalachan, Less Than Guru, and I hope to see you tomorrow with a new video.